Hey, moms, welcome to the Virtual Six Figure Mom Podcast, a show for moms who want to achieve their definition of success while managing their day to day responsibilities and maintaining some sense of sanity along the way. Let's jump into today's episode. Welcome back. I know it has been a while. Oh my gosh. Listen, I am your host, of course, Christina Butler. If you are a working mother, you want to increase your income, you're not quite sure of how, you are absolutely in the right place. Whether you're looking to negotiate a raise, maybe you want that promotion you've been putting on your vision board for the past few years. Maybe you're looking to get a new job offer. I am going to share some tips and strategies that I think can really help you achieve those goals. So today I really want to talk about, I guess, how to negotiate a higher salary, right? Because that's something I know um, moms we struggle with a bit. Women in general struggle with that a bit. So let's dive in. Before we actually dive in, of course, let's take a moment to talk about why negotiating a higher salary I think is so important, right? Especially for working mothers. I'd say as a working mother, you truly have unique challenges. I'd say you have unique responsibilities that can impact your career and your financial success. You might be juggling, family responsibilities with work, dealing with childcare and elder care, trying to maintain some sort of work-life balance, right? That really meets your needs and those of your family. So I think about my own situation as a single mother. I like one story comes to mind, quick story, true story, of course. I was, let's see, I wish I could tell you where I was at the time, which employer. I remember. So, one of the many financial services organizations I worked for, um, that will remain nameless. I remember the individual who hired me. I won't name his name, of course, but he said uh, that had he known, literally, this is what he said, had he known I was a single mother, he wouldn't have hired me for the role because it requires travel. So this was kind of pre-HR professional, Christina. But here we are, 2023, and I wish he would. Um, I wish anyone would say something like that. Yeah, hindsight 30/30 in this case. So I think about working in that role and knowing that there were times I'd have to travel, and my youngest was very young at the time. So I hired a nanny. I didn't have family nearby, and I hired a live-in nanny. Like I was actually going to make sure I could travel and make sure I could work late as needed. And in this particular role, there was some overtime required. I was in a sales role, right? And I was studying for my licenses at the time, my Series 6 and 63. So I hired a live-in nanny. And can I tell you how I was essentially just working to pay her and my mortgage? I was literally working to pay this amazing nanny who also cooked and cleaned. I was working to pay her and my mortgage. And that day she decided to quit without notice. Can I just tell you how my world came tumbling down? Because that meant I had to put her in daycare, which also was not cheap, but also meant that my ability to work later hours was limited. Just going to breathe on that for a second because I distinctly remember how challenging, for lack of a better word, life was for me. How that impacted my ability to raise my other child, right? Like it was a lot. It was a lot. She's now 16. So, It's not a lot anymore. It's a lot in different ways, but not in that way. But I tell you that because I understand the childcare issues. I understand the work-life balance desire, right? That we talk about so often. I understand all of that. Um, when I think of elder care issues, many of you know I lost my father at the end of 2020. It still breaks my heart. I will not get emotional, but it certainly it still breaks my heart. And I remember his last 4 weeks of life, and I was driving from my home in North Carolina to the Richmond, Virginia area where he was in the hospital, and then driving back and driving up and driving back. And when I tell you that wore me out, and I was blessed, 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 blessed in a couple of ways. One, I had an amazing employer. I mean, I've worked from home for the last 12 years of my corporate career. Um, and I was blessed to have a manager who was just beyond amazing, valued family. The organization as a whole was amazing. The culture was perfect, right? And they gave me the freedom to take care of my dad, put him first. Now, keep in mind, I had children, right? My oldest was out of the house at that point. My youngest was still home, and we were in COVID. So, when I think about how important it was for my compensation to be um, at a certain level in both of those situations, right? It costs money to literally drive up and down the road 4 hours, multiple times a week, right? In addition to right wear and tear on your mind and body and car, um, it costs money. And I was staying in hotels and sanitizing hotels, and like, oh my gosh, it costs money. Okay, so when I talk to you all about the importance of negotiating a higher salary, it comes from a place of understanding what life is like without it versus with it. Um, I'd even go a step further aside from my personal life, right? I think research shows that women, on average, earn less than men in the same exact roles and are less likely consistently to negotiate their salaries. We struggle. We won't even apply for the daggone job. We get the offer and we're still not ready to be like, yep, I deserve to be here. I deserve to be compensated appropriately for the value I add to the organization. I am going to tell you this is where I need to be. I've done my research. We struggle in that area consistently, and the data does not lie, right? I, as a recruiter, have seen whoa, I have been part of conversations, right? When I say part of conversations, candidates would negotiate with me, and then I would determine if that's something we could do or couldn't do, right? I knew our compensation ranges. I knew steps that needed to be taken if I wanted to go above that or had the potential to go above that or add a sign-on bonus or something like that. And consistently, men were asking for the money. Rarely did I have a woman negotiate her salary with me. And when I tell you I started pulling them aside off the record, like, here's what I need you to do. You have so much value to add. It would be like major pep talk, major therapy session. I was their career coach, even though I wasn't. And I was very clear about that. But I wanted to see women win. I wanted to see us win. And I realized that was an area where we consistently struggle. So I think about this wage gap that can have long-term consequences for your financial security, right? Your retirement savings, your overall well-being. I had a conversation with my mentee today, and I've worked with her, and it's just been such an amazing journey to see her from where she started, recent college graduate, in a job that paid little to nothing. And during our time together, she secured a role. Like we went through everything, right? Resume, interview, follow-up emails. She struggled for a bit, but man, when she got that offer, she wasn't sure if she was going to negotiate. And I said, that's not negotiable. Understand? You don't have the option to not negotiate. Yes, it's for more money than you expected it to be, but you are absolutely going to go in there and ask for more money. And let me tell you how this is going to go. So I gave her the steps to take, right? We outlined it, we rehearsed. She struggled with confidence for a bit, but like she felt truly empowered to go in and not only ask for more money, but ask for a flexible start date, right? Things that we don't think about beyond negotiating for more money. There are other things we can negotiate for. Um, so I said all of that to say that, like, I think about this recent experience and how she just wasn't like it just wasn't in her. It wasn't part of who she was to not just negotiate, but I think a step back, know her worth. Um, and I talked to her about how even if this doesn't work out, she knows that now she can ask for at least minimum what she is being paid for now. And I told her go five above that minimum, minimum. Never in her wildest dreams did she think she was going to be at this point, but she is. And now she's worth more, period. She's worth more. So, um, you know, I'm saying a lot, but this comes from a deeply rooted place of passion for wanting to see us succeed, wanting to see us win, wanting to see us feel secure and stable and able to provide. I think by negotiating a higher salary, you can really help bridge this gap, right? This wage gap. You can increase your earning potential and really gain more financial stability and independence. You can also set an example for other working mothers and help close the wage gap for future generations. If you have daughters, I hope you're hearing me. You can impact how they view their skills, their experience, their ability to negotiate. Okay. So let's talk about some practical tips for negotiating a higher salary as a working mother. I hope you all are ready because I've got about five of them. And, the beauty of technology these days, you don't have to write them down. You can hit rewind, right? You can listen to this every morning and make sure you tell a friend as we all work together, right, to really impact this wage gap. So, tip number one, I'd say do your research. Before you start negotiating off the cuff, it's important to know a few things, right? Do your research. You want to understand the company's policies and guidelines regarding salaries and raises. Best way to do that is to ask. It's probably not something you're going to find on the internet. Feel comfortable with asking about the potential for growth and development. Feel free to ask about the budget for the position. Please stop leading with your own salary. Ask for the budget for the position. You want to know, right? I think you should also, right, research industry standards. I think that's critical, right? You want to look at comparable salaries for your role, and of course factor in your level of experience, right? This is important stuff and can help you make a compelling case for a higher salary and really provide evidence to support your request. You're asking an organization for more money. You better be ready to explain to them why they should pay you more, right? So that takes me into number two, right? Our second tip is build your case. When you're ready to negotiate, build your case for a higher salary. You want to be able to speak to your achievements, specifically as they relate to what the organization is looking for, as outlined in the job description and based on what they've shared with you during the interview process, right? Talk about how you're going to add value to the company. Talk about the contribution you're ready to make early on in your tenure with the organization. And when I say this, I mean, be specific. This whole kind of um, random, broad, hypothetical maybe, I think I can. No, 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 no. Be specific about your goals and how a higher salary, right, is going to impact a number of things. A number of things. Truthfully, how you perform. I think you should be prepared to discuss any additional responsibilities or duties you've taken on since your last salary review. If we're talking about, a raise in this case, and not, you coming in and starting a new job. If you're talking about a raise, please come with the receipts to show them the value you've already added, the projects you have in process that are going to continue to add value to the organization, and and take it a step further. Be comfortable with saying, beyond that, once I've wrapped this up, I foresee us working on X, Y, and Z. And really, let me tell you how I believe that is going to help us move the needle forward in X, Y, Z. Right? Be ready with that. Write it down. Write it down. If you want to rehearse it, rehearse it. Right? Commit that to memory. Talk about confidence building. Um, so that's tip two. So recap real quick. Tip one, do your research. Tip two, build your case. Tip three, be flexible, right? While you should be clear about your salary expectations, I think it's also important to be flexible and open to negotiation. We often say that I'm open to negotiate, but are you really? Right. Think about alternative forms of compensation, such as bonuses, stock options, additional PTO. I don't think let me think. I have not worked for an organization yet, and I've worked for a few where I could flex on PTO. Bonuses, yes. Stock options, yes. Salary, yes. Right? Work from home days, yes. Yeah, I think you also need to be willing to compromise, right? Like it's got to work for both parties involved, you and the organization. It has to. Tip number four, communicate early. So, and I actually had a conversation with my mentee about this. Effective communication is truly key to successful negotiation. You want to be clear and you want to be concise in your communication. You want to show that you've done your research. You want to use examples to really illustrate the points you're making. So, 2 seconds, if we haven't talked about this already, if you haven't heard me talk about it, document everything, all your wins. Every time your manager says, well done in that meeting, every time a client says, wow, Christina, right? I couldn't have done this without you. Every time a candidate says, you made this experience amazing. Every time, an external partner says, you are the most amazing person to work with at that organization. Document it. Keep a little brag folder, right? In your emails. Listen, I had a OneNote for it. And beyond that, let me tell you something, listen up, because y'all know how crazy this job market is these days with all these layoffs. Beyond that, make sure you have a copy for yourself stored somewhere. Now, because of firewall, sometimes you can't forward the email from your work email, right, to your personal. Print that puppy off. Print it off. If you can't forward it without, there being some sort of, bells and whistles going on, some sort of compliance issue, print it. Copy and paste it into a Word document and print the Word document, right? You need to be able to document all of this because you will need it when it's time to either negotiate that raise with your current employer, or if you're leaving, it might be helpful to bring to the negotiation conversation with your new employer, right? Be mindful of a couple of things. I'd say stay professional in your tone, stay professional in your demeanor. Let's not get crazy with these demands and ultimatums and anger and blah, blah, blah. No, 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 no. All of these tips require you to be professional. All right? Please. Thank you. So we're coming up to my last tip here. Goodness, I didn't expect this episode to go this long, but it's not too bad, hopefully. You're listening to this maybe as you get some things done around the house or on the ride to work, whatever the case is, or on your morning walk. Um, so, tip number 5, consider the timing, right? I just mentioned all these layoffs. Timing is also really an important factor in negotiation. And so I'd say choose a time when your employer is really likely to be more receptive to considering an increase, maybe during a performance review or when the company is doing exceptionally well, stock prices through the roof. Um, yeah, pounce then. Avoid having these discussions during stressful times for your organization, during busy times, right? If a major project deadline is approaching, focus on getting the project done. Then you can have that conversation. If your employee just cut, I mean, excuse me, your organization just cut, let's say 5,000 people, 10,000 people, two or 3,000 of whom are in your department. Let's say, head of HR is gone or, folks in leadership are gone. They're probably not going to be in the best space to entertain any conversation right now around increasing your salary. Let's just, I mean, these are humans we're talking about. They're humans, right? Would you want to have that discussion? You just lost your dog. Are you interested in hearing the neighbor talk about the addition to their home? You don't care. Your mind is elsewhere. Would you really want to hear about the employee who wants more money when your colleague of 20 years was just laid off? I know that's not your issue. I'm just telling you, these are humans we're dealing with. Okay. Um, so quick recap. Um, these were a few tips for you to consider when we're talking about negotiating a higher salary. Do your research, build your case, be flexible, communicate early, and consider your timing. Okay. I want you to remember this, if nothing else. Nutshell: negotiation is a skill that can be learned and improved, as with any muscle, right? If you don't use it, you lose it. So you got to use it. You got to negotiate. You got to practice, right? Practice makes progress, not perfection. And if you're not sure where to start, consider working with me, right? And I genuinely mean that because these conversations come up consistently with my clients. We have a career clarity consultation, which is 90 minutes, really tailored to what you need. And if we need more than that, then we step you up to a one on one program, right? 90 minutes of us getting deep. And let me tell you something, the depth of our conversations, you'd be surprised. The depth of our conversations, right? Sometimes I am surprised. And the impact it has on someone going to their employer the following week, a couple of weeks later, sometimes a few months later, depending on their starting point, to say, you know what? I'd love to put some time in your calendar to have a conversation. And that conversation leads to dun dun dun. You guessed it, right? You guessed it. That conversation leads to the increase in income. And I'm not just talking about a little $500 bonus or $500 raise, right? Significant, significant increase, or at least the ability to lay the foundation for your next promotion, for your next raise. Do you see where I'm going with that? Like your investment in a career clarity consultation is going to more than triple if you take the right steps. I can't do the work for you. Sometimes I wish I could. I can't do the work for you, but I can help you lay that foundation. I can give you the steps, I can give you the action plan, and then I need you to take it and run with it, right? All right, y'all. This has been a pleasure. Clearly, I could talk about this until I'm blue in the face. Um, this has been amazing. And I do want you all to take me up on that offer. Feel free to schedule an initial free discovery call. Um, but I think diving into that career clarity consultation is key, especially since time is money. All right, ladies, have a fantastic rest of your day. I'll catch you in the next episode.
Thank you so much for listening today. Make sure you stay connected with the Virtual Six Figure Mom community. Hit subscribe for podcast episodes. Visit our website at www.virtualsixfiguremom.com and join our growing online community on Instagram and LinkedIn.